Next, we move on to the interviews. The results came out towards the end of January and I had cleared both my sectional as well as the overall cutoffs. The interviews were done in a hybrid setting where we would have to join a Zoom link from our home around 20 minutes before the predetermined time. Now, given my percentile, I had qualified for both the BM program as well as the HR courses. Preparation for both these interviews was quite different. The HR interview revolved more around me as a person and the BM interview revolved around technical terms. For the HR interview, I made a huge list of HR questions, which I will probably talk about in another video. Now, I will talk about my XLRI interviews one after the other, and after both of them are done, I'll maybe go a little bit into the depths of how I prepared for them and how you should as well. This is how my XLRI HR interview went. The first faculty had asked me, where are you joining us from? I said I'm joining from Ghaziabad. They asked me what is the most famous thing about Ghaziabad. So I talked about the Habitat Center and how they are making changes, adding new apparel brands. I also talked about the railway station being made. Then they asked me about what industry is Ghaziabad famous for. So I said I'm not sure, but since it's near Delhi, it could be IT. But it obviously wasn't the right answer. They said there's a place near Ghaziabad that has the name Modi Nagar. Who is it named after? I said I don't know. They said it's named after Lalit Modi's father. They asked me if I've given any other interviews before this. So I said yes, I have given the NMIMS interview. They asked me if there's anything that I learned from there. I said I was being defensive in my answers. They said that's a personality thing that cannot be changed. I said, but sir, it can be improved upon. They said, when has it ever happened that you were able to improve upon your personality? As I talked about my attitude towards studies, how I used to believe I was a good singer when I was in so on and so forth. Some example, some story that I had made up in the moment. So they said, are you still in touch with the friends that told you were not a good singer? I said, no sir. Why? Why did you cut them off? I said, no, we lost touch, but just because they went to different cities, it wasn't because of anything else. So then the next interviewer came in. He asked me about my role as an SDR, which is a sales development representative. A sales representative basically. He asked me, how did you work in sales? I talked about how I got a PPO really early in my placement season. And then while I had gotten more options to look into eventually, I really liked the sales role, so I stuck to it. Then they asked me what was your variable and fixed payment like. I said 70% of it was fixed and around 30% was variable. If we reverse it, how would you improve your productivity? I asked for some time. Then I asked whether my salary will only depend on the number of show-ups that I get or also the revenue that I'll be generating. They said yes, it will depend on that. I said I would have to focus on getting accounts that can go for proposals rather than accounts just for the sake of getting show-ups. So then they asked me what were the ethical dilemmas you faced during a time at the organization that I was working for. I talked about how we had to withhold information such as pricing to upsell to our customers. They said yes, but that's business, right? What's the dilemma there? I said, right sir, I can't think of any dilemmas as of now. Then they pushed me towards a certain direction. They asked me about data privacy. That doesn't come back to bite your company? I said, yes sir, I didn't think about that. However, we have to be extremely cautious because the US data laws are very stringent. Then the third interviewer came in and he asked me, why am I interested in HR? Why not BM or some other field? So I had a pre-decided answer to give here about why HR, so I talked about that. Then they asked me about my entrepreneurial journey. How many employees did I have? I said I had close to 20 employees. 10 of them were core and 10 of them were interns. They said, alright, what did you learn about the recruitment process through that? So I talked about why it was important to have multiple rounds of interviews, which basically went into even if somebody is technically good to be a part of our organization, he might not necessarily be aligned with our organization in the way it functions, the way we move swiftly with things. Maybe he has different career goals a few years down the line. Since we were a startup, it wasn't necessarily possible for us to allow ambiguity into our project. After which, they basically were like, we are done with the interview, you can log off. So I wasn't really happy with my performance in the HR interview, but they seemed to be happy with it. That's why I got selected. If you have made it so far, please consider subscribing as I will keep coming out with more useful content like this. In the HR interview, there are a few things to note. The faculties were more concerned about how I dealt with real-world problems, including my work as a sales representative. It's very clear they were interested in my role as both an SDR and as an entrepreneur. Now mind you, while I did not necessarily face many questions on HR itself, it was purely because they found my work experience quite interesting. And in all honesty, you can and should expect questions on HR. They did ask me, however, why I wanted to do HR given they do ask for your preference beforehand. And the worst answer you can give is, oh, I am giving this interview because I am eligible. Anyway, they asked me about some ethical dilemmas I faced and if data privacy and withholding pricing based information can be considered as you being untrue or immoral to your clients or not. Remember, it is always a good idea to schedule your interviews towards the beginning of the season and not at the end or even middle. This is because they do get tired after a certain point of time, and while they try to be as unbiased as they can, the onus is on you to make it as interesting as possible. For now, keep these pointers in mind. Rewatch this video whenever you need any help with your preparation. Save it if you would like to. I have went in depth about my overall experience right from the beginning of the season, and I personally believe you need not look at any other videos for XAT or XLRI preparation if you are well versed with the strategies mentioned here. Thank you so much for showing my videos so much love across the past few months. I really appreciate the kind comments and do read them regularly, trying to comment to them as much as possible. If you have any XAT related query, you can ask me down below. And as always, thanks for watching.